The UFC Flyweight division is absolutely stacked. In this video, I am going to matchmake the top of the division, including Alexandre Pantoja, #1 contender, Joshua Van, the undisputed reigning champion, Brandon Royval, Brandon Morenao, Albazi, Kyoji Horiguchi, Taira, Kape, all of the top guys in the flyweight division. In this video, I will be putting up against another opponent, starting high, going low. So I did say start high. We will start with the UFC champion, Joshua Van, who should fight for the UFC flyweight title next. Alright, there's two obvious contenders. Two obvious options for the UFC to go about this right now. You have Kape, who's won 8 of his last 9 fights. He's won his last 4, all by knockout against the top of the flyweight division, the best of the best, including Kyoji Horiguchi 2 days ago. Also including Brandon Royval in a first-round KO. That was extremely impressive to me. I would have given him the title shot directly after that. Bruno Gustavo Silva. And, of course, Asu Almabayev, who I'll also get to in this video. So, you got Kape, who's on an absolute roll. It makes for a really interesting stylistic matchup. Both of these guys, Van and Kape, rely very heavily on their punches. They both move really, really well for flyweights. They both keep a boxing-type stance. And they're both aggressive fighters. You know, they're both looking to come forward, make something happen, go for the finish. Are two finishers, two guys with really, really heavy hands for the flyweight division. This is why I find this matchup really interesting, and I would book it over Pantoja versus Van, although Pantoja does have a clear, immediate rematch. I think... sorry, guys. I also need to fix my hair. Good gosh. But I also think that, with his 7 wins in a row before the Van injury, and he didn't even really lose to Joshua Van. On paper, he absolutely did. Officially, he absolutely did. But that was a nasty elbow injury. No one could have kept going after that. So, it was a fair stoppage. And I think that Alexandre Pantoja absolutely entitled to an immediate rematch. He had 5 title wins, 4 title defenses. He beat guys like Kape himself, who's the #2 contender at the moment. The guy I'm saying should go over him. However, that was 5 years ago, so kind of irrelevant now. He also beat Brandon Royval twice. He beat Brandon Morenao to claim the championship. He beat guys like Steve Ursay, Kaya Sakura, Kaiko France, all those guys. He ran the flyweight division for 4 or 5 years, and then the Joshua Van incident happened. I absolutely think there should be an immediate rematch. However, I think Pantoja should wait. I think when we do see Van versus Pantoja or Kape versus Pantoja too, which would be sick as well, we need Pantoja at his absolute best. He says that he's doing well. He wants to return late summer, which would be a couple of events away since we now are in the middle of June. I don't think he's going to return that soon. I project his return around November, December area, maybe even early 2027, which there's nothing wrong with that. Like I said, it was a bad injury. He needs to take his time, and then you have Kape, who's been pretty active lately, and I think he absolutely needs to have this title shot now. I don't think they need to keep giving him opponent after opponent. I think the Royval win did it for me. The Horiguchi win was the cherry on top. Horiguchi, a top 5 guy coming into this fight. He doesn't have to beat every single person in the division just to get a shot at Van. So I think that Van should stay active. He should fight as soon as he can. He took a little damage in the fight against Taira, not an absurd amount, however. And Kape took very, very little damage against Kyoji Horiguchi for the 3 rounds the fight lasted. So I think you do that fight as soon as you can. You give Pantoja another 5-6 months to heal, and then about December area, which would be 1 year from last year's Van versus Pantoja title fight, you get Pantoja back in there against the winner. That's what I would do with the flyweight title picture. Let me know in the comments what you guys would do. Moving on, Tatsuro Taira, the #3 ranked UFC flyweight in the world. Who should he fight? Kyoji Horiguchi. The fight is literally perfect. These are 2 grapplers. The matchmaking, the stylistic matchmaking is amazing. I think this would go for an incredible fight. Both are technical strikers as well. We saw in the fight against Van, Taira can absolutely strike and hold his own on the feet if he needs to. Obviously, Van did outstrike him and got the better of those exchanges on the feet. However, Tatsuro Taira has an extremely effective jab. He can use his range. He's very technical on the feet. He mixes things up. he does have weapons on the feet, and Kyoji Horiguchi, same for him. You know, he comes from a karate background. He's going to utilize the kicks. He's going to mix up his attacks. He likes to blitz his opponents. Obviously, he came up short against Morenao a couple of days ago. However, I still think that he would have a chance against Taira and Taira him. These guys are both grapplers with striking there if they need it. However, Kyoji Horiguchi, I would say, relies more on his striking, although he will grapple. He's a mixed martial artist. He will mix it in there, you know, as he should. And Kyoji Horiguchi and Tatsuro Taira are also both Japanese. When's the last time UFC went to Japan? 9 years. It might be time for UFC Fight Night Japan, okay? Taira versus Horiguchi. I know that I would tune in. I bet we don't really go across the seas much anymore. Outside of Australia, we did have a Singapore Fight Night a couple of years back, Holloway versus Korean Zombie. And we have been to Korea before, I think 5 or 6 years ago. However, it's time for a UFC Tokyo card, UFC Japan. We have not been since 2017. I looked up before this video. Both these guys are Japanese, both going to look to represent their country against each other. It's an incredible fight stylistically. There are some other guys you could throw on that card from that area. I think it makes perfect sense. UFC, book a Japan Fight Night, all right? Moving on, we have Royval versus Kavanaugh. This fight is already booked, of course. I think it's pretty good matchmaking. Kavanaugh coming off a good decision victory over Brendan Morenao, and Royval coming off a loss. So he's going to look to get back in there and beat Kavanaugh. Return to title contention. But I'm not going to dive too deep into this fight because it is already booked, and this video is about matchmaking other guys that are already booked and who I think they should fight and what makes most sense to me. But so we are moving on, but I just wanted to point out there, great matchmaking. I'm looking forward to that fight pretty soon, actually. UFC 329. Okay, Asu Almabayev does have a fight against Charles Johnson this weekend, 5 days from me recording this. I think it's going to be an incredible fight. UFC Fight Night main card. So, if Asu wins, which I think is a very, very strong possibility, I'll post my prediction for that fight either tomorrow or Thursday. I am recording this video about 10:30 Tuesday. No, not Tuesday. Monday. I lost track of my dates there. So, either Tuesday or Wednesday, I hope to get a prediction video out for this fight, Asu versus Johnson. However, either way, Asu Almabayev, if he beats Johnson, and I did turn in a little twist here, if he loses, I don't think this fight makes too much sense. I bet you could still do it. But if he does beat Johnson, I think him versus Amir Albazi is the fight to make. Both these guys are wrestlers, you know. They have similar styles. I think that Almabayev has better striking overall, just a slight advantage there. However, Amir Albazi is a very, very good position-based grappler, so I would like to see this fight. They're both 7 and 8 in the rankings, right beside each other. I'd like to see it a lot sooner, actually. So if he does beat Johnson and stay in that top 10, Johnson ranked 14 at the moment, then I'd like to see this fight. However, if Johnson wins, I would like to see Johnson versus Morenao. Who wouldn't? Morenao coming off 2 losses. However, he's still a very, very exciting fighter. He keeps that brawling fighting style, and then Charles Johnson, with the power he has, he's always looking for a brawl, you know. I think it could make for a very interesting matchup, and plus, if Johnson beats Asu, I think that's 4 in a row for him, so you could absolutely validate it. Anyway, guys, there it is, matchmaking the top of the flyweight division after UFC Vegas 119. I'll run back through the fights that I would make. First of all, for the title, Joshua Vane versus Manal Kape needs to happen very, very soon. Give Pantoja some time to rest, 5 or 6 months. He returns for an immediate title rematch. I don't think he should have to fight anyone else to get back in title contention, considering the run that he had, 7 fights in a row. And the way that he lost the title was very, very controversial due to injury, no one's fault. So, second is Tatsuro Taira versus Kyoji Horiguchi. Like I said, UFC Fight Night Japan. UFC, you have to make this happen. 2 grapplers, 2 technical strikers, very technical fighters. Maybe the 2 fastest or most technical fighters in the UFC flyweight division outside of maybe Manal Kape for speed. So I think that fight absolutely needs to happen sooner or later. You got Royval versus Kavanaugh coming up. Maybe after that video, I'll remake another flyweight matchmaking video. Maybe the division will change then, but that's 2 weeks away. Maybe 3. I'm not sure if there's a break after this fight night. And then you got Asu. If he wins, Very important detail there. Versus Amir Albazi and Charles Johnson if he wins versus Brandon Morenao. I don't know. If it's a draw or something like that happens, I think we run it back. But I don't know. So make sure you leave a comment, like the video, subscribe for more, and have a great day.